Previously, we looked at language acquisition and the differences between social language and academic language. One difference is that social language takes less time to acquire than academic language. Students can be orally conversant in 1 to 2 years. Second, social language is also not as cognitively demanding as academic language is. A student needs to use much more cognitive effort during a science class than during a casual conversation. One similarity is the role that context plays in both social language and academic language. When additional context is provided, that is, clues beyond the language itself, learners have more options to understand what is being communicated. As educators, it is vital that we remember that the more context we can provide for students, the more efficiently they will be able to engage with academic language in our classes. In this presentation, we take a closer look at the components of academic language so that we can better understand why it takes longer and requires more cognitive energy to acquire. We also look at academic discourse, which is using academic language to engage with others. When we talk about academic language, we're talking about ideas and how those ideas are related. These ideas are different from common, everyday ideas. These ideas are abstract, they're technical, and they're complex. When we develop our academic language, we are developing our ability to do academic thinking. When we think about academic language, we usually first think about vocabulary. Vocabulary is categorized into 3 levels: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. It's important that we understand the distinctions between them so that we can best support our students in developing them. Tier 1 vocabulary refers to the common, everyday terms that students encounter regularly. This is the vocabulary of social language. Students interact with it frequently and usually orally. Tier 2 vocabulary is general academic vocabulary that's associated with school. Words such as analyze, describe, identify. While these words cut across all content areas, they are not used as frequently as Tier 1 words. Students will not encounter them enough to just pick them up, and so they need explicit instruction and intentional practice in using them. Tier 3 words are the vocabulary terms associated within specific content areas. They are more technical and often represent key concepts from the content areas. They include words such as circumference, democracy, and photosynthesis. Students need both Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary terms as they acquire academic language. An additional characteristic of academic language is its formal style. When a person delivers a speech to an audience, there is a different set of conventions they use than when telling a funny story to a group of friends. Usually the style becomes more elevated and reserved rather than casual. Also, the way sentences are structured is more complex in academic language. Clauses are used, making the sentences longer and potentially more confusing. Often the passive voice is used. When students are used to the simple, straightforward sentences used in conversational language, they can be put off or shut out when they encounter the more complex sentence structure of academic language. 3 other characteristics of academic language are language functions and their associated phrases and structures. In short, language functions refer to the ways we use language for academic purposes. Language functions include tasks such as explaining, describing, making a claim and supporting it with evidence, sequencing, and comparing and contrasting. This is the language that embodies the thinking we do in academic contexts. These language functions each have their own language features associated with them, phrases and structures that are unique to each of them. For example, when we use language to make a claim and then justify it with evidence, we are using the language function of claim and evidence. With this language function, there are phrases that indicate which statement is the main argument and which statements are the supporting evidence. Transitional words and phrases such as evidenced by, as a result, and one important idea is, help to distinguish shifts in the thinking behind stating a claim and citing evidence. There are also structures associated with that language function that we are expected to use to give shape and organization to our language. A claim is made and then followed by a piece of evidence. This can be visually represented by a graphic organizer. Now let's consider academic discourse. Academic discourse refers to the interactions we have when we encounter academic ideas. We have three primary motivations to engage in academic discourse. First, we engage in academic discourse to learn and understand new content. This is the essence of learning. When students read an article about the causes of the Civil War, they are interacting with academic ideas presented to them in an article. Accessing new learning in a written text is a part of academic discourse. Second, we engage in academic discourse to clarify our understanding of that content. We do that as we actively question the new learning and how it fits in, or doesn't fit in, with our prior knowledge and experience. When students discuss the causes of the Civil War with other students and identify details that were new or contradicted what they had previously thought, they are interacting with academic ideas to clarify their understanding. This is also part of academic discourse. Finally, we engage in academic discourse to expand on those concepts. We do that by interacting with the ideas of others and making connections and extensions. For example, when students listen to podcasts that explore the perspectives of states' rights during the Civil War and civil rights during the Jim Crow era, they are interacting with academic ideas to expand and extend their original learning. This is also part of academic discourse. It is important to note that academic discourse can be either oral or written. We engage in academic discourse when we have an oral debate with someone about a topic from a content area. We also engage in academic discourse when we read an article and then prepare a response to an idea from that article. Academic discourse is sustained. That is, it requires an extended exploration of ideas. It consists of more than just producing a single sentence. In a future presentation, we will look at how we can set up our classrooms in order to provide students with both the skills and the opportunities to engage in academic discourse. For now, the key takeaway points are: first, there are three categories of vocabulary: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1 refers to common everyday vocabulary. Tier 2 is general academic vocabulary that we use in all subjects in school. Tier 3 is content-specific vocabulary, the language of biology or the language of geometry. Second, academic language is more complex than social language for a variety of reasons, including its formal style and sentence structures that include clauses and the passive voice. Third, academic language includes language functions, the ways we use academic language, for example, to compare and contrast, and the associated phrases and structures that are specific to those functions. Fourth, academic language fosters academic thinking. Fifth, academic discourse is the use of academic language to interact with others in order to acquire new knowledge, to clarify new knowledge, and to build on new knowledge. Sixth, while academic discourse can be either oral or written, it is always a sustained interaction. That is, it is more significant than just a simple exchange of single sentences.